it used to be the model is the bottleneck is no longer is the bottleneck. CEO of Microsoft has actually said that his problem today is not that he doesn't have enough GPUs, but it's because he doesn't have enough data center to put these GPUs to work.
And I believe that it's even more of a crisis because electricity for data centers has to be on 24/7. AI can't sleep.
It has to, otherwise it would just cause havoc on the local economies.
1 gigawatt of the future output of one data center could provide electricity to a country like India or Japan. What if there's a fire hazard? If there's a big fire, what's going to happen to ChatGPTs? Do you know?
Hi, welcome to episode number 32nd of the Coming Way podcast. My name is Linh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Resident Technology, a company that design and produce AI software for global as well as domestic market. Co-host with me today is Pham Thanh Son. Please introduce yourself.
Hello YouTube, my name is Pham Thanh Son. I am an investment director at Viet Capital asset management firm, website vietcapital.com.vn. We manage open-ended funds and private funds for the local Vietnamese people.
Awesome. Just a quick introduction of the Coming Way podcast. This is the podcast where we'll discuss about the intersection of AI, supply chains of AI, and the macroeconomic events that are happening, and will happen in the next 10 years. Because both Sun and I believe that AI will create a completely new revolution, and it will change the way we work, live, and experience.
Yeah, and at this point, many of our audience already asked the question, why are these guys talking in English but not Vietnamese? Because that's what we've been doing for the past 31 episodes. But Linh and I both received some requests from our friends and families overseas and even in Vietnam to maybe sometimes speak in English so that they understand a little bit better of our content. So to our 11,000 subscribers, thank you. But sometimes we will talk in English if you don't mind.
So today's episode will be subtitled in Vietnamese, and it was just a bit more work for our producer, but a lot less work for us, because honestly, when you talk about the topic of macroeconomy or even technology, particularly in AI, it's actually a lot easier to speak in English, since majority of the language in this new sector are written in English, not really in Vietnamese. So, a lot of terms are literal translation to Vietnamese, but there's no like a keyword for it yet. So that's why, once in a while, I think it's just easier for the both of us to speak in English. So hopefully we'll get your support this time also.
So Linh, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, in a lot of other episodes when you talk about technology, we've been talking a lot about majority of the models that are being produced, how intelligent they are, also the applications that you're seeing, on the consumer base. But I think it's time to talk about something completely different. I mean, we love talking about it, this AI models and the intelligence and the distribution through the application level. But the reality of it is AI actually lives in a warehouse, right, on a physical chips, drawing a physical amount of power from physical power plant. And so this episode, I think, is a very appropriate time to talk about where are the bottlenecks of this AI supply chain, right? I mean, when we look at AI, when we use AI, we think that it just appear on the cloud. But is it really truly appear on the cloud, or where that cloud being located? And why is it that, I mean, in the previous episode we talked about all of this crazy investment, Magnificent Seven company like Meta or Google or Microsoft are putting in to invest in the data center of AI. Why is it happening that way?
Yeah.
Why is it that all of this company committed $500 billion in a single year to invest, and sometimes the amount of capital they invest in even about 70 to 100% of their net income? So why is it? So I think it'll be a very good topic to now discuss today in this episode.
Yeah, and to me, and I think that to many of our audience, when they hear the big numbers being invested into AI, most of them will think that it is into GPUs, i.e. the compute power, compute capabilities to build data centers, but not. And this is to me also, not many of us will think that it is actually an investment into electricity, into power, because we briefly mentioned this in the early episodes. We say AI needs electricity just like us needs rice. AI cần điện như là người cần cơm. And today I think that you really want to talk about this segment of the AI infrastructure, i.e. electricity, where it is coming from, where is the bottleneck, right?
Yeah, we'll go through some of the 4-piece stack, right? You look at the Magnificent Seven. What are they investing in right now? If you look back at the history of generative AI, you'll see that in 2022, when OpenAI first started with ChatGPT, the bottleneck then was actually the intelligence of this model, right? How smart they are and how utilized they are in different applications that you use every day, right? The first chatbot was just a simple chatbot, the 3.5 GPT 3.5, and at that time it was already magical. But the gap between that to GPT-4 was ginormous, and from GPT-4 to what we are today, GPT-5, and even with Google, Gemini 3.5, in a short 3 years, you start seeing that, okay, the model, it used to be the model is the bottleneck, is no longer is the bottleneck. Majority of this company are now having enough capital to put into the talents and the data and the algorithm, that they figure out a way to just scale the intelligence of this model to about 10 to 100 to 1,000 times, as you see in many of our previous episode. Intelligence jumping at 10 folds, 100 folds, while the costs go down to near zero. So what we are seeing that as a trend, right? The second thing is all of this company, the hyperscaler, which we call Magnificent Seven, what they have is distribution. So all of them in and of themselves already have this amazing distribution network. You look at Microsoft, the biggest enterprise software company that ever existed, right? Every window users are one of their distribution point. So when they, let's say they have a really good AI models, they will be able to distribute that model through application onto every stack of technology that users have. Outlook's going to have AI, right? You're going to have AIs of Windows. You're going to have Copilot appear everywhere. If you're a coder, you're going to have Copilot coder, so on and so forth. So Microsoft owned the enterprise distribution. Facebook on the social distribution. They have 3.9 billion active users every week on one of their apps. We already talked about this. You got Google, which run 95% of search in total internet search. You got their distribution of Gmails. They are the biggest email providers on earth. You have YouTube that have the scale of YouTube is equivalent to Netflix. For those audience that don't actually understand the scale of YouTube alone, it's actually have the same amount of revenue, nearly equal to that of Netflix, which is insane. So this company, they have a distribution network of themselves already. Now it comes down to the chips. 2 years ago, they ran into the bottlenecks of the chips. NVIDIA's cannot, or TSMC cannot produce enough chips for all these hyperscaler to put into their data center, right? It just 2-3 years ago. That was the problem because of COVID. The supply chain kind of broke down. So everyone's shortage on chips everywhere. But today's GPUs is no longer the problems. I mean, all of these bottlenecks are now being solved. There's new fabs opening in Arizona, in Texas, in America. TSMC are producing more chips than even the demands that it is with this hyperscaler. And in the latest episode of one of the interview that Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, has actually said that his problem today is not that he doesn't have enough GPUs, but it's because he doesn't have enough data center to put these GPUs to work. So he actually have a surplus of the GPU inventories. So that's now chips is no longer the bottlenecks. So then what is the bottleneck, right? Like you come back to that same question. What is the bottleneck now with this hyperscaler? It's actually the data center. So they don't have enough data center to put the GPU in.
Is it the right parallel to say what the CEO of Microsoft said, that he has enough GPUs, i.e. he has enough brains, but he doesn't have
Yes.
enough data centers, i.e. he doesn't have enough human bodies to put the brains in, right?
Yeah.
So, and in order for you to have a functioning human body, you need rice, you need food.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
those data centers
Yeah.
need
Well,
energy, right?
this GPU has to be put in a data center. Like there's
Yeah.
just no way around it. You have to put it all together. Right now you have to build a data center that up to the size of 100,000 GPUs per site, which is like a hyperscaler. That's what they call hyperscaler. And so, for example, you got Colosseum 2 with Elon Musk Colosseum 2, which is the data center they are building right now. You're looking at 500,000 GPUs. And let's say if the average cost of one GPU is about $30,000, you look at $1.5 billion of investment for a single data center. And that's just for Elon Musk Colossal data center alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's raised the questions of like all these people, all everyone, all the investors are now talking about like, with this much capex invested in data center, is there a bubble, right?
Yeah.
So again, like a lot of time you were saying bubble is just a concept of financial, right? But in terms of technology itself, the reason a lot of these people believe it's not a bubble yet is because what they observe is every GPU being plugged into the grid, plugged into the data center, is being used right away. So the utilization rate of these GPUs, these chips, are up to 100%. So every time you put in a new data center, it's being used right away. It burned right away. Like OpenAI was like like in the last episode, we were talking about the token economy. Essentially, that's what happened today. Is as model get better and more intelligence, and tokens get cheaper, and AI model can work for a longer time, the need for data center that house these GPUs to produce the output that replace human over time, it's just astronomical at the moment. So that's why just the sheer amount. I mean, this company putting $500 billion into data center. That's where they are. So come back to this. We talk about model is no longer the bottleneck. We talk about distribution is not the bottlenecks. We talk about chips, they are not the bottleneck. So the bottleneck now is the buildup of this data center. And with the GPUs that each generation of the GPU that gets stronger require even higher amount of power to feed into them.
Yeah.
Right? So that's, I think, is going to be the topic this is the topic that I think we want to discuss today, is the enormous amount of power needed to run them.
Is the AI's race currently an energy race? From your point of view?
That's what it is. Yes. Essentially, if you look at it, I think the cost of intelligence at some point is going to be equivalent to the cost of a watt.
Wow.
What is the energy
Energy unit.
currency?
Yeah.
Is the energy unit. So if you look at it, I mean, the cost of running all this model eventually is going to be equivalent to the cost of the energy running it, because it gets so cheap. The model gets so smart and running it so efficient. So you're gonna get it down to the amount of money you cost on all this energy. So you look at you come back to the demand for compute at the moment. With all of this company, what they're observing is that it's insatiable, right? You see Sora as the videos model, and it comes out, and it just drive this compute demand to about 1,000,000x.
Millions X.
Because you look at it, when they present a new, if you watch any of the product previews, right? When Sora just released, you watch the videos, you're like, oh my gosh, this video model is amazing. But when you actually use it, it's nerfed. It's the model being nerfed because it has to reduce it so that it doesn't burn as much token. So they use a weaker model to release when they release to the public. But the actual capacity of the model is so good, but it costs a lot of token to run on it.
And let me
Right?
guess,
So
they don't have enough electricity to release the full model.
they don't have, yes, you can say in that sense, they don't have enough compute. And the compute bottleneck now is actually the electricity that build up this data center. So the race to build up data center, it's started from the fact that what they observe is the sheer amount of demand to use all this compute. I mean,
Wow.
I think there's this one I'll show on the screen. The head of I think data center for Google, basically they say that the utilization rate of of TPU, which is Google design chips, it's 100% at the moment. And those are the TPU that was like 2 generations ago, which is the old chips, and they are still being used at 100% utilization. So
Right.
that just insane, just to say like the demand for this driving.
And I believe that it's even more of a crisis because, well, I'm not a technology specialist, but I'm guessing electricity for data centers must be one. It has to be on 24/7. AI can't sleep.
Yeah,
If I sleep right now, there will be a person in a different time zone asking ChatGPT the same, maybe a different question. So
yeah,
electricity to produce AIs cannot sleep. Second, that because it is so much, it has for ESG and environment reasons, it has to be clean.
yeah.
And thirdly, because we are gonna produce a lot more, and then people are gonna use Sora, ChatGPT a lot more, it's gotta be cheap and plentiful.
It has to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to. Otherwise, it would just cause havoc on the local economy. So one of the few problems that these data center are already running into is like you said exactly right. How do you connect this electricity source to the current electricity grid of America? Is a 50 years old grid. So it's a very old grid, right? And it's not built for this type of requirement for this data center. I mean, we have an episode in the past, we talk about different tier of data center, right?
Yeah.
And for AI data center, it requires the highest tier. So like you were saying, exactly right. You need to be 99.99% of energy uptime. It cannot just, as it was running, it cannot just pause. So I'll tell you a very quick story. When Elon Musk started to build the first Colossus One data center, and we were all talking about how he was able to do it in 19 days. But the way he did it, in order for him to get the energy needed to supply for that, he has to use gas turbine to run on site. So I think he turned on 33 different gas turbine to run on site to supply the energy for it. But in order for you to run the gas turbine, the local community, all people around living around that area, will smell like gas stove open day and night, and also they will suffer horrible noise pollution from all this turbine. So
Right.
and they cannot just simply plug this into the grid system like you were saying earlier, right? You can't, because the grid has been so old. So that's the first thing, is the local grid congestion in different hotspot. So if you do build a data center at any area, you have to figure out a way to supply the energy enough for this data center without disrupting the local grid of the people living around area. The second thing is that because of these people who plug into the grid, when a data center come in and you want to stream the energy from those into the grid, those people who live around the community will have to suffer from higher electricity bill. So you get permitting supply chain and costs. So all these people, the community, are actually going to push back. A lot of, I think in just last month, one data center that Microsoft wanted to build were actually being pushed back by the community around the area. They don't want that anymore. So that was the second problem that they run into. And now a lot of these hyperscaler talk about data center that have the size of 1 gigawatt. And to put into perspective, 1 gigawatt is enough electricity to serve 890,000 houses, which is equivalent of I think a small state.
In a year?
You know,
In a year
in a moment, in supplied in a single moment.
right.
1
right,
gigawatt.
Right.
For that's enough electricity to supply for 980,000 houses. So
800,000.
you're talking
800,000
family.
families. If you multiply by 4, that's probably 3.2, close to 4 million people, right?
It's never heard it before. The type of number that's never heard it before. But majority of the data center that are coming out 2026, 2027 is going to be 1 gigawatt data center. That's just insane amount. That's never really even anyone even thought of. So
Wow.
the projection of this is that by 2030, right? The amount of energy required for data center are going to be equivalent to a whole country of Japan or India,
Wow.
right?
Is
So
that is that is
that
that is it forecasted by McKinsey or any of the AI superpowers that we talk about, like Microsoft? Where do people get
so
these numbers from?
so it's the International Energy Agency is one of their study that they're looking at this. I think there's a graph the producer probably can put into it too, is the sheer amount of energy required. I mean, if you look at it, the traditional way of supplying energy into this data center, it's no longer sustainable, right? You cannot just plug into old grid. You cannot just use or even renewable energy, because one of the problem with renewable energy is that it has lower latency, and also it doesn't supply hot 24/7. So the base load is not consistent. So you have to invest in the very expensive battery storage, so
Yeah.
that in
So
the during the day energy come in, you store it, and then you use it at night.
yeah, the
Not the
sun is not
best
on 24
solution.
seven. The sun is not on
Yes.
24/7, and the wind doesn't blow 24/7. Clean energy will be off at some point. And as I said earlier,
Yeah.
electricity and power needed for data centers cannot sleep. Has to be on
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah. So basically, what are then the problems that I mean, what are then the solution that all of these hyperscalers are trying to solve? A lot of these hyperscalers they use natural gas at the moment, to use as the source of energy to this data center. But in order for you to do it, you have to have some creative sort of solution. One of them is this company called Bloom Energy, and what they create is this on-site fuel cells. So the fuel cells, what it does is that essentially it acts almost like a battery, but then it's just convert. It's not just a battery; it doesn't just store, but it actually have the ability to convert natural gas or hydrogens into on-site energy right on site near the data center.
Yeah.
So a lot of this data center, they cannot get it live and running by connecting it to the grid, because the permit required for this to connect to the grid will take them about a few years. But they need these data centers go on site really fast. So what they have to do is they actually have to rely on technology like Bloom to get on-site generator to get up and running in within 90 days. And that's what this technology is doing, right? So
Wow.
they're trying to do different sort of solution around this. And then now a lot of talks is around nuclear. I'm sure you've heard of this company, a different company, and even Trump stand up and say nuclear is going to be the future. We're going to bring nuclear back, right? And if a company like Amazon, they actually bought nuclear plant so that they can run their data center on. I think if you think about it, it just talk a lot about the demand for energy of this data center.
You know what, Link? When you talk up until this point, although this is not in our outline, we haven't prepared this, but I suddenly feel like there may be a fire hazard when you build electricity so fast, so much, and it's actually really untested territory, because the demand for data centers, as you say, is unprecedented. The International Energy Agency said, the electricity output, 1 gigawatt, or the future output of one data centers could provide electricity to a country like India or Japan.
Yeah.
What if there's a fire hazard?
I,
If there's a big fire, what's going to happen to all of our chats with ChatGPTs? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but I mean, if you talk about nuclear, that's why I say, I mean, a lot of this new company, nuclear, there's NU Scales or Oklo. These are new company that they come up with a form of nuclear reactor called SMR, small modular reactors. I mean, my wife is working with the Malaysian government also, into exploring doing this type of small modular nuclears in Malaysia. So they are exploring the possibility of it. And she says that, don't even think about it for the next 15 years. 15 years. 15 years for something. Yes. Because it's nuclear. I mean, you talk about nuclear, you look at the sheer amount of document, a permit of the testing of technologies, it's going to take roughly 10 years. And then just to get that concept proven and to ensure the safetiness of rolling it out, because the cost of if it doesn't work is so high, it's gonna take that much time. So, I mean, the market could react. You in the past 2 months, you see like company like Oklo, and you talk about a lot about this company where they have zero revenue, and the stock price have shoot up 140 times. Is that 140 times?
I don't know, but definitely quite a lot. By the time that I pay attention to, let's say Oklo, it was trading at $15. Now it's trading at close to 115, so 10
114.
times.
Yeah.
10 times,
So
yeah.
you 10 times, 15 times. I mean, I think at their peak it was about 15 to 16 times. So
Yeah.
for a company that has zero revenue, people are really trading on just this year. I think just excitement. It's just on the news. But you look at the reality of it, nuclear is going to be a very long time game. Very, very long time game.
I remember somewhere, and I hope that I can dig this up, but there is in Japan, they're studying new nuclear reactors where when you create one, it can just be left to its own devices, and it can produce electricity up to 15 years without even people touching it or putting human interactions into it. Just like Voyage 1, when we talk about this piece of satellite that was launched into orbit in 1977. It was powered by nuclear, and it is still running. It is a solution, but we may be a very long time away from it. But let me have a forecast link, because I think looking at European regulation. I lived in Europe for 15 years. I know that it took them 10 years to tell Apple to change the cable into what Samsung has. If you look at the way that the Chinese is deregulating the EVs industries, how fast the industry is moving in China, and many of the YouTube clips that you show me, cars that are driverless are being tested a lot more in China versus in the US. Now, because of their fast and the willing to test new things and deregulate, if the AI race is an energy race, am I seeing that China is actually going to win this race? Tell us.
Well, Jensen said in the everything just 2 days ago in one of the interview. It's actually what he said is exactly what you just said, is that essentially China is going to win, because if it's the energy race, you're seeing that America at the moment has a head start on the technology of the compute. They have the best chips available, but they don't have the energy, right? I mean, all these hyperscaler building all these data center, they have so much money to put in, but how fast can they put this data center up and running, and how much of them can be put into the current grid, and then how much of them will be able to just keep running on this natural gas is still big question marks, and it has to be answered somehow in 2026, 2027. But if you look at the amount of energy that produced in China every year, even from renewable energy, it's already produced far more than America ever need. So energy wise, China is so much cheaper, has produced so much more vastly compared to the rest of the world. The problems they have at the moment, come back to it, is just the ability to self-build chips. They have better regulation. They are a whole lot more open for AI, and again, come back to one of the topic that we talk about. China is an engineer state, in which America is a loyalty state, right? An engineer state, essentially, they take the controlling and the running of their country as an engineer project. And so when they put their mind into a certain topic, they will do everything in their power to make sure that happen. You look at EV in the past, you look at manufacturing in the past, you look at infrastructure that was built. It was all impossible project, right? And it's all this impossible project was done because the Chinese government look at it and say, this is going to be the great engineer project and will have to be done by the state, not by the private company, but by the state. We'll put our resource the resource is what is it's not just money. It's going to be effort. It's going to be policy and regulation. It's open door for all this company to join in and get it done together. So you look at China have done it so many times, like you said to me. So they've done it in the past. They've done it with EV. They are going to do it again with AI.
Right.
If America is not going to be able to catch up, you know, with if not they're not going to be able to evolve and innovate and really get their house in order really fast with energy issue, I don't think they will be able to catch up with China, given the time frame maybe in 10 years.
Right.
America may still be ahead in terms of the technology, like you said, 0 to 1, but I'm not 100% sure when you talk about 1 to n.
Just to make a funny comparison, the race between US and China now, to your point, US is good on chips, good on intelligence, but lacking power, versus China is abundant of power, abundant of energy, right? In just solar energy alone, 1 year they produce 1,000 gigawatts solar energy, right?
Yeah.
That's clean energy, ready to use.
It's incredible.
Enough to power a lot of data centers, right? So
Yeah.
China, you have the problem is inverted, borrowing your word, and they have enough power, enough energy, but not so much in terms of intelligence and chips. So
Not yet.
So this is a race between two marathon runners. One has a lot of brain, but not enough food to eat, and
Yeah.
and the other one, China, has a lot of food to eat, but doesn't know how to run. So who's gonna win?
Who's gonna win? I think I was on the school that America was gonna win in about a month, 2 ago, but then because it was basically the in terms of the intelligence, we talk about intelligence essentially is the ability of the models. I think last week, one of the one of the AI lab that come out of China, called Moonshot AI, they released an open source model, and it's similar to DeepSeek when it first came out. It's called Kiwi 2. And this model is an open source model, but it surpassed a lot of the closed source model from America. And it's not as shocking now, but if you are in the technicality of it, you start to realize that all these labs, they don't have the luxury of capital like the American lab has, because China doesn't have the depth of the capital market like that of America. I mean, you look at OpenAI, and right now you got what is a $500 billion company, but the model they release is almost on par with that of GPT-5. So then you look at it, you're like, this lab from China, you probably get like what, $100 million, maybe $200 million of investment, and yet they perform intelligence-wise is the same. So the only lacking of China at the moment is the chips. It's just the chips. If they can build a chips that maybe half or about 60-70% of capability like that of NVIDIA, and they just scale it up with the amount of cheap energy that they have, I don't know.
I want to jump onto your if, saying if they can produce a chip that is 60-70% the compute capacity of NVIDIA's GPUs, can they? To your point, can they? Will they be able to? 5 years, 10 years?
I don't know. I mean, they've proven us wrong a lot of time in the past, right? They've proven us wrong in their ability to just engineer the crap out of what we're given, and it's incredible. So my thought at the moment, yes, if I have to bet, I wouldn't bet against the Chinese team.
Yeah.
You know, they've done it in the past.
Yeah.
They were follower in 4G technology, and then they become leader in 5G technology.
Yeah.
Right? They were follower in EV, and then they become leader in EV.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like many times you mentioned, and particularly after our trip to China, when I look at the way their society organized, I don't know. I think they have a shot. Even though, I mean, I'm not an expert in chips maker, but I do know is the hardest thing to manufacture on Earth in the history of mankind. There's nothing more difficult than making a chips. You know,
Yeah.
nothing more
Yeah.
difficult than making a chips. And like I said, in the past episode, we've talked about just the sheer supply chain for ASML to create that machine require 5,000 different company all over the world just to make the machine to print the transistor on a chip.
Yeah.
So, and that 5,000 company range from Germany to Japan to US to all over the world, right? So then, in order for China to be independent, they have to be able to own that whole supply chain within themselves, and that's the really hard task to do.
Yeah.
They've invested 100 billion plus dollar into this, into this in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't know, but I have a feeling they will be able to do it.
I don't know either, but talking from a point of view of a consumer, I hope that this AI race to increase productivity and better human being will be an endless race. Sometimes China will take over. Sometimes the US will take over in terms of intelligence, and China will take over in terms of energy, and sometimes the role swap, because as long as there is competitions and at least duopoly, when 2 or 3 parties race to win and have the best model, the cheapest model, the cleanest energy provided for the data centers, we as consumers will always be the fraction of the society that will always win. Because there will be an endless race to have the best thing out there for the consumers.
Yeah.
And I hope there won't be a winner. The win will continue, and I will be able to use ChatGPT so cheap, so fast, and I will increase my own productivity.
Yeah. Well, or they replace you. So.
Or they replace me, so I can retire happy.
Okay. So I think that's a good place to end the episode. I'm very glad that we have this episode that we can be able to speak English. I mean, I know the producers say that we shouldn't say that we are Vietnamese, so we shouldn't say. But honestly, it's really is very liberating to speak in the language that we study this technology in that in that frame that I can share, because majority of the document and the things that I read, the books, or the things that we watch online, right? It's all in English, so it's liberating. But yeah, it's very good. Hopefully we can do this more often, and I really hope that our viewers will also support us in this new direction.
Yeah, if you think that English is good, to do some episode in English, give us a comment in the feedback, and let's not forget to subscribe, because your subscribers into our channel help the channel grow. And I'll see you, Linh, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you.